Hello, bonjour, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this presentation about the Rouge, Canada's first national urban park, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Briley, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm a part of the Learn to Camp team here at Parks Canada at the Rouge National Urban Park in Toronto. So before I begin, Parks Canada would like to acknowledge that the Rouge National Urban Park is built on the ancestral land of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. At the Rouge National Urban Park, we are very proud to be working closely with 10 First Nations through the First Nations Advisory Circle, and we do this on the establishment, the planning, and the management of the park. We work closely with our First Nation partners on a number of important projects, including archaeological fieldwork, restoration projects, and the development of visitor facilities. So since we're all on a video call and not at the Rouge National Urban Park, we would like to encourage you to learn the history of the land in your area by exploring the nativeland.ca. Vanessa will provide a link for you in the chat. Furthermore, June is National Indigenous History Month. So this year, National Indigenous History Month is dedicated to the missing children, the families left behind, and the survivors of residential schools. So to learn more about National Indigenous Month, visit the project website and follow the related hashtags on social media. So today we will begin by introducing Parks Canada, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into information about the Rouge National Urban Park. And then we'll touch on topics such as the park history, its work, and how to stay connected, along with some others. So here is a beautiful photo of Fundy National Park in New Brunswick. You can see here it highlights the red Parks Canada chairs, which can be found at national parks across the country. If you get a chance to visit, see if you can find them and take a photo while you're there. Has anyone seen these chairs in a national park before? Let us know in the chat. So Parks Canada was the world's first national park service, and it was founded on May 19, 1911, which makes it 110 years old. So Parks Canada protects 450,000 kilometers square of land in Canada, which is about 8 times the size of Nova Scotia. Here's a look at the Parks Canada mandate. So on behalf of the people of Canada, we protect and present nationally significant examples of Canada's natural and cultural heritage, and we also foster a public understanding, appreciation, and enjoyment in ways that ensure their ecological and commemorative integrity for present and future generations. So here's a lovely map that shows the location of all of our Parks Canada sites across the country. So Parks Canada delivers its mandate through national parks, national historic sites, as well as national marine conservation areas, which we'll explore each of these in more detail soon. The first is national parks. Parks Canada conserves and protects 48 national parks across the country, the oldest of which is Banff National Park, which was established in 1885. Banff is among the oldest national parks in the world, along with Yellowstone National Park in the United States and the Royal National Park in Australia. Parks Canada also co-manages many national parks and marine conservation areas alongside Indigenous people. Some examples are Guayhanas National Park Reserve in BC and Sermilik National Park in Nunavut. So Canada's national parks are some of the most iconic and treasured places in the country. They also provide critical habitat to countless species of plants and animals, and they give Canadians opportunities to connect with nature. So I'd love to know, what is your favorite national park, or maybe one that you'd love to visit? Please let us know in the chat. So here is a map of Ontario. You can see the green dots on this map indicate national parks that we have in Ontario. And then the yellow dots are the National Historic Sites, and finally, the blue areas are our National Marine Conservation Areas. And if you can see the purple dot, number 21, beside Toronto, that's us, that's the Rouge National Urban Park. And as you can see, most of the national parks are a little far from Toronto, but they're definitely worth checking out. The proximity of the Rouge National Urban Park to the greater area of Toronto is what makes us so special. The Rouge is a perfect gateway to discovering other national parks across Canada. So the second way that we deliver Parks Canada's mandate is through our National Historic Sites. So Parks Canada preserves and manages 171 of Canada's more than 970 National Historic Sites across the country. This includes national treasures such as the Bar-U Ranch in Alberta, Fiskard Lighthouse in BC, and Manoir Papineau in Quebec. So the closest national historic sites to the GTA or to the Rouge are managed by Parks Canada. These include the HMCS Haida in Hamilton, and a cluster of 5 sites in Niagara-on-the-Lake, which include Fort George, Fort Mississauga, and Mississauga Point, Butler's Barracks, and the battlefield of Fort George. So many of Canada's newest national historic sites are managed by Parks Canada, reflect the history and culture of Indigenous people and the diverse cultural communities who make up Canada. So in the 1980s, Parks Canada entered the domain of marine ecosystems, and today manages 4 national marine conservation areas across the country. These include Guayhanas in BC, Saguenay St. Lawrence in Quebec, Lake Superior in Ontario, and lastly, Fathom 5 in Ontario as well, which was the first to be created in Canada. So national marine conservation areas are an important area of conservation because Canada has such a rich marine heritage. Canada has the longest coastline in the world, which is over 243,000 kilometers, which goes along 3 oceans. The national marine conservation areas have a distinct combination of physical and biological characteristics. These include submerged lands, the water above them, and any species found there. This also includes wetlands, estuaries, islands, and other coastal lands. So when visiting our national marine conservation areas, you will learn and see the protection of seabeds, the water, geological features, marine and coastal habitats, a diversity of terrestrial and aquatic species, and the archaeological and historical features. At Fathom 5 National Marine Park, number 4 here on the screen, it even has shipwrecks that have been conserved. So here is a beautiful picture that was taken about a half an hour away from Toronto City Centre at one of the last remaining working farms in the Greater Toronto Area, inside the Rouge National Urban Park. So there's a lot of history at the Rouge National Urban Park before Parks Canada came into the picture. In 1954, Hurricane Hazel caused flooding and property damage, leading to the formation of conservation authorities across the province of Ontario to manage and protect land and communities from future flood damage. The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, or TRCA, was created to protect and manage watersheds in the Greater Toronto Area, which includes the Rouge watershed. The original Rouge was established by the province of Ontario in 1995. It was 50 kilometers squared of parkland and was managed by the TRCA. Later, the Rouge Park Alliance, formed by advocacy from the Scarborough community, among others, and the work of notable individuals in response to a growing demand of recreational trails throughout these protected areas. So you can see as well, we have dedicated volunteers and community-driven conservation stewardship. So the decision for the Rouge Park to become a national park was made in 2011 after a study determined that creating a national park would be the best way to protect and manage the growing number of protected areas inside and nearby the park. So the Government of Canada and the neighboring municipalities of Markham, York, Durham, and Pickering each contributed lands to what became the Rouge National Urban Park. So while Toronto and surrounding cities began to develop and expand, we saw many groups and important figures fight for the protection of the Rouge Park. Without their hard work and dedication in the past, Canada's first national urban park may have never even existed. So once Rouge Park came into existence, we continued having more volunteers taking the time to help protect and assist with work being done at the Rouge Park under the Rouge Park Alliance. So here you can see a timeline of the Rouge Park. It has changed a lot over the years. So Parks Canada first committed to work towards the creation of Rouge National Urban Park in 2011. Since then, the agency has consulted with more than 20,000 Canadians and has been working closely with First Nations, all levels of government, community groups, conservationists, farmers, and residents to realize the dream of creating Canada's first national urban park. So in 2013 to 2015, the lands were owned by various entities. Then in June 2014, a document called the Draft Management Plan was created to help guide the management of the park for over a 10-year period. Next, in May 2015, the first official land transfer came from Transport Canada, which saw 19 kilometers square become the Rouge National Urban Park's very first lands. This led to the Rouge officially being created on May 15th, when the Rouge National Urban Park Act came into force by order in council. The land to create Rouge National Urban Park came from Ontario, Toronto, Markham, Pickering, York, Durham, Transport Canada, and the Toronto Region Conservation Authority. In June 2019, the Rouge National Urban Park received 95% of the lands. Today, 97% of these land transfers are complete, and Parks Canada is working hard to encourage visitors to protect this special place while we improve and establish visitor services and amenities such as restrooms, wayfinding signage, trails, and day use areas. So here you can see a timeline of some of the events that I have just spoken about and about the park's development throughout the past decade. So as of today, Parks Canada manages nearly 95% of the lands intended for the Rouge National Urban Park. That equals about 75 kilometers squared out of the total 79 kilometers squared. And once completed, it will be the largest urban park in North America, which is equal to 23 times larger than Central Park in New York City, or 19 times larger than Stanley Park in Vancouver. So here you can see a photo of the park, and it goes all the way from Lake Ontario, the beach up north, past the zoo, and into an area called the Oak Ridges Moraines, where there's lots of hills and farmland. As you can see in the photo, the park crosses many communities. These include the township of Uxbridge, the city of Pickering, Toronto, Markham, and finally the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville. So why create a national urban park in Toronto? Well, more than 20% of Canada's population, which is about 7 million people, lives in the Greater Toronto Area, with the nearest national parks being around a 3-hour drive away. Now, the largest city in the country has a national urban park within an hour drive, and it's accessible for all and always free to visit. So we're very proud to say we are the only national protected area accessible by public transit. So you can reach us using the GO train, a subway, or a bus. You can also get to us by foot, maybe a bike ride, or even canoe. Here we have listed our 3 main access points, which include the Zoo Road Welcome Area, the Reeser Road Day Use Area, and 19th Avenue Day Use Area. But you can always find more information on how to get to the Rouge on our website. So the concept of a national urban park was something new for Parks Canada. And the creation of the Rouge National Urban Park is monumental because it's Canada's first and only national urban park. The Rouge has many roads and even 2 400 series highways that cross the park. We also have railways going through the park that serve freight trains and commuter trains. And the Rouge is a large natural space that is surrounded by urban development. It's also very special because it has some of the last working farms in the Greater Toronto Area. So since Rouge National Urban Park is a Parks Canada site, it protects and conserves the natural and cultural heritage of the park. But what makes it even more special is the protection and conservation of the agricultural or farm heritage of the park. So first we'll talk a bit about the natural heritage. So over 1,700 species of plants and animals. We're also home to Toronto's largest remaining wetland and rare Carolinian forest. Here on the screen, we also have a little bit of a breakdown of what those 1,700 species looks like. So a large portion of those species are plants, with 762 plant species. These include some interesting white pine, which used to be used for ship mast because of how tall and straight they are. There's also beautiful trilliums and water lilies. Next, we have around 225 bird species. These include the American goldfinch, the Baltimore oriole, woodpeckers, blue jays, cardinals, and red-tailed hawks. Then there's 55 fish species. These include salmon, trout, and pike. 27 animal species, deer, coyotes, rabbits, beavers, and finally 19 reptile and amphibian species such as turtles, frogs, and snakes. So here are some pictures of some of the species that I just mentioned that we protect at the Rouge and that we rely visitors to help us protect. So if you want, you can try to guess which species these are in the chat. For example, what do you think is number 1? Great, on to cultural heritage. So the Rouge has over 10,000 years of human history, including some of Canada's oldest Indigenous sites. Many First Nations, likely the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, groups have lived on the land, hunted, fished, and began to cultivate squash, maize or corn, and beans. They were also expert fishers that fished salmon, bass, whitefish, trout, and even eels, among other fishes. So the river was used as a means of transportation and later as a trade route, which was part of the Carrying Place Trail, which included the Rouge River as well as the Humber River. Then, as European cultures settled here, more farming was established. They brought in orchards and livestock, then roads were established, and the different boroughs of Toronto grew. Decades ago, families and communities around the Rouge knew it should be protected and created the Rouge Parks Alliance. More protection and conservation and management was needed, and that's when Parks Canada stepped in. The formation of the First Nations Advisory Circle ensures that we are able to protect the cultural heritage of the Rouge from the past to the present and into the future. They play a vital role to the park because they are consulted on with the activities in and the decisions of the park. So next we have our agricultural heritage. So this began in the late 1800s when farmers from Pennsylvania moved to Canada and started to develop their farming roots in Ontario. So like I've said, the Rouge has some of the last remaining working farms in the Greater Toronto Area, and many of these farms are located on rare Class 1 soil, which is the rarest and most fertile soil in Canada. Some families have been farming in the Rouge Valley since 1799. And this is what sets Rouge National Urban Park from all the other Park Canada sites and locations, is that the park has agricultural lands that it protects. Parks Canada has made it a point to protect these agricultural lands, and we rely on visitors to help protect them too. So some of our agricultural objectives are to continue the existing farming that's there, diversify this farming, incorporate beneficial management practices, create a lived-in landscape, recognize the farming's contribution to the park's natural and cultural heritage and its conservation. And finally, we hope to establish long-term relationships between the farming community and Parks Canada. So next, I will talk about a few examples of some past and ongoing projects at the Rouge National Urban Park that we are proud of. So the first is our Blanding's turtle recovery. So currently, sadly, Blanding's turtles are considered a threatened species in Canada and Ontario. Blanding's turtles can live up to 80 years, and they are always smiling. They're nicknamed the smiling turtle because of the yellow under the chin that makes it look like it's smiling. These turtles play an important role in many Indigenous peoples' spiritual beliefs and ceremonies. To many Algonquin and Iroquois-speaking peoples, turtles are a teacher and play an integral role in the creation story by allowing the earth to be formed on its back. The 13 spots on the shell often represent the 13 full moons of the year. There are also legends on how the Blanding's turtle got its yellow chin, and in many Indigenous stories, the turtle is referred as the turtle with the sun under its chin. And if you're interested in learning more about these stories or traditional ecological knowledge, our partners at the Toronto Zoo and their collaborators, they put together a Ways of Knowing guide, which Vanessa will provide a link in the chat for you. So here's a little timeline of our Blanding's Turtle Recovery Project. You can see here in 2014, we worked with our partners to release 10 turtles in the park, and then after that, it just kept growing. So in 2015, we released 21 more. Then in 2016, another 36. 2017 to 2018, we released another 49 each year. As of today, we have released 270 two-year-old Blanding's turtles and 184 hatchling Blanding's turtles into a variety of wetland habitats in the Rouge National Urban Park. So we are on track to release an additional 49 two-year-old Blanding's turtles into wetland habitats in the Rouge in June, which will bring the total number of Headstart turtles released into the park to 319. So here are some images of the very cute turtles. Parks Canada is working with many partners like the Toronto Zoo and Adopt-A-Pond to raise the population of the Blanding's turtles to a stable level. The Toronto Zoo is leading the Headstart Project, where the eggs of the Blanding's turtles from healthy populations in Canada are brought to the Toronto Zoo to grow for the next 2 years. So they don't hibernate and they keep growing over the winter time until they reach, after 2 years, the size of a 4-year-old Blanding's turtle in the wild. Great, so on to restoration planting. So last year, there was even more restoration and farmland enhancement in the park. To date, 77 ecological restoration projects have been completed in the Rouge. We saw more than 71 hectares of wetlands, riparian, and forest habitats restored. In collaboration with our partners, more than 56,000 native trees and shrubs will be planted this year in the park. The tree planting at the Rouge National Urban Park is a collaboration between Parks Canada, the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and Forest Ontario, and it's made possible by the Government of Canada's 2 billion trees commitment. Now on to archaeology. So over the 10,000 years of human history in the Rouge that I mentioned before, there's going to be an abundance of cultural and historical heritage. So in past years, the Rouge conducted archaeological fieldwork on sites throughout the park. Archaeological assessment is a part of the impact assessment process that is required by law in Canada before any development work can take place. So this ensures that important cultural sites are understood and protected where needed. So the First Nations Advisory Circle field liaisons joined the Rouge archaeological team on site to conduct this field work. And there's approximately 326 registered archaeological sites at the park, which are both Indigenous and settler. And these sites, they date back from the Archaic period, which is about 7,000 BC to 1,000 BC, all the way through to the contact period and well into the 20th century. So here's a look at the First Nations Advisory Circle that I've been mentioning. So the Rouge National Urban Park, we work with 10 First Nations communities who sit on this First Nations Advisory Circle. And this circle includes the 7 Williams Treaties Nations, as well as the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, 6 nations of the Grand River, and the Huron-Wendat First Nation. So how do we work with Indigenous partners? Well, we do through the 3 ways you can see here on the screen. The first being our annual First Nation Advisory Circle meetings. So these are usually annual or biannual meetings depending on the field unit's needs. And we do this by inviting a full roundtable of sharing and discussing about ongoings in the park related to visitor experience, resource conservation, capital and asset projects, and more. This meeting is an important way for the Rouge National Urban Park to fulfill our duty to consult and build relationships with the First Nation partners. The next is through employee awareness. So we're very lucky to have an Indigenous relations team at the Rouge National Urban Park, which regularly engages with the Rouge National Urban Park staff. And they do this to build awareness and education on Indigenous issues. And they also have hosted movie screenings, had guest speakers, such as an Indigenous artist, and topics such as Indigenous Toronto. They also conduct weekly media scans to raise awareness about the latest news in Indigenous relations. And the third is through project engagement. So one of these projects is called the Rouge Gateway Engagement, which is the park's flagship welcome area. And it has been in full engagement mode in early 2021 with the project consultants and the Rouge staff, with over 50 hours of engagement with the First Nations Advisory Circle members. And lastly, there's the Stories of Canada. And this is a funding opportunity through National Office that will allow the Rouge to work with dedicated First Nations Advisory Circle community representatives on park projects, including the Rouge Gateway, and to collaborate and share the stories of their respective Indigenous culture in a meaningful and powerful way. So we'd love to connect with you. Please always check our website for the most up-to-date information. These activities are currently not available due to COVID, but hopefully we can resume in the future. Some of these awesome activities include our guided walks, community festivals, stewardship events, learn to camp overnight camping trips in the park, my personal favorite, and you can still follow us on social media, of course. So here are some ways that you can help the Rouge during COVID. Like I said, please always visit the website so you're up to date. You can also visit during some of our downtimes. These include early mornings, late evenings, or during the week. Usually around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is a peak time where we have many visitors. You can also keep a mask handy and keep your distance from others. You can try visiting other areas of the park. So many of our visitors stay in the south of the park where the beach is, but we also have many great trails and areas to explore in the north of the park that are usually less busy. But most importantly, please never litter, never dump garbage, and never harvest in the park. We want to keep it as clean as possible, so please take whatever you bring with you. So if you'd like to find out any more information about any of the topics I've discussed today, please visit our website, parkscanada.gc.ca/rouge. You can also email or phone us, and here are the social media handles that I mentioned earlier. So we have Twitter and Facebook as well. So that brings us to the end of our presentation, but we have some time to answer a few questions. I'm going to invite Vanessa to turn on their camera and we can answer some questions together. So I see one question here from Mel. Do you have any tips for kayaking with a family in the Rouge River? That's a great question. I personally love to kayak, and the Rouge River is definitely a great place that you can do that. I do know we don't have any kayak rentals, so if you are seeking to rent some kayaks, you'll have to find a private company to do that through. But if you do have your own, that's great. If you're with your family, even better. I always recommend kayaking with a partner. I would recommend maybe staying to some of the shallow parts of the river, depending on how young your children are, and just making sure that you're following safety protocols such as wearing life jackets, having a bail bucket. But other than that, I think you'll have a lot of fun kayaking with your family. Okay, great. We have a question about tips for black bear sightings and safety. Absolutely, that's always a concern, but don't worry, you can always stay safe. So right now we haven't seen too many black bears in the park, but they definitely do exist. Vanessa can probably send a link in the chat to what to do if you do spot a black bear. We have a telephone number that you can call just to let our park staff know, and that way they can make anyone in the area aware as well. But if you do see a black bear, the best thing that you can do is to back away slowly and make a little bit of noise if you can. So either clap your hands or shout a little bit. That will usually scare the bear right away. So we have another question. Can you expand on what the Learn to Camp program involves? Definitely. So Vanessa and I work for the Learn to Camp program, and in non-COVID circumstances, that usually involves doing workshops like this one or presentations in local community centers or libraries. So in the past, we would have all of our camping gear set up and we could interact with you about how to use it. But this year we've adapted our program to do presentations like this one online to help give you tips and tricks on how to camp safely. But some of our other Learn to Camp program in the past, we would do overnight events. So at the Glen Rouge campground at the Rouge National Urban Park, we would invite participants to sign up for an overnight event where you would come to the campground and we'd have all the equipment set up for you. We'd teach you how to use it and you would stay the night with us. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again in the future. But for now, our Learn to Camp program involves presentations such as this one. So Mel's asking another question about kayaking. Is the route from Rouge Beach up to Glen Rouge Campground accessible by beginner kayakers? Yep, I would say that it definitely is. The Rouge River isn't too treacherous for beginner kayakers. I believe it'd be fairly simple to do. I'd recommend definitely checking out a map beforehand. Maybe Vanessa can provide a link in the chat for you more about the possible kayaking routes in the park. Great, we have a question about the trail from 19th Avenue day use area to Reeser Road day use area suitable for cycling. So just to let you know, all of our hiking trails currently don't allow any cyclists. If you'd like to cycle in our park, that is great, but you have to stick to the roadways. So please cycle on any road. I believe you could still get from the 19th Avenue day use area to Reeser Road through the roads, yeah. Okay, so we have a question about how many picnic areas are there? So we definitely have picnic tables set up at our welcome center locations. I'm not sure how many there are throughout the park, but we encourage visitors to have a picnic wherever. You can always bring a picnic blanket to do so. And Jamie has a question, do you have guided tours of the park? We do in non-COVID circumstances. So as of right now, unfortunately, our guided tours are paused, but in the future, we will have our guided hikes back. Yep, so we have a question, is the park open year round? It is, it's open year round, 24/7, it never closes. And like I said, it's always free to access. So please come visit us. And what are the other workshop series about? Great question. So you can see here, Donnelly has posted a link in the chat for everyone. Our next presentation will be, it's called Know Before You Go, Your First Front Country Camping Trip. And that will just, we'll cover some tent tips, some cooking tips, get you to think about why do you want to go camping, where do you want to go. So it's targeted to first-time campers, but personally, I always learn something new from it. So we'd love if you can join us for that one. We also have a safety presentation, and that includes going over some safety considerations, such as what to do if you find a tick on you, what to do, like where to set up your tent, some things to really consider. And then finally, we have our animal awareness presentation, and that's all about safety with wildlife. So for example, what to do if you see a black bear, how to keep wildlife safe, like never feeding them, and topics such as that.
I do see another, was there another question there about restaurants?
Yes, there was, and I was able to answer, yep. So there's none actually located in the park, but there's many surrounding it. So there's many very close to the park.
So if there aren't any more questions, thank you to everyone for coming. I wanted to say thank you very much to Briley and Vanessa for coming. This was really great. I really enjoyed hearing about all of this. I'm looking forward to actually getting out and exploring Rouge National Urban Park, because it's right on our own doorstep, which is such a wonderful, wonderful thing to have so close by. So thank you very much. And if people have more questions, you're welcome to stay and ask some more questions. But thank you so much to Briley and Vanessa for this. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Donnelly, and thank you to the Vaughan Public Library for hosting us. It's been great talking to everyone and interacting virtually with you today.